They told him he has 12 months to live. Then they threw him out like garbage. The same hour. The same marble floor he scrubbed as a child. The echo of a slammed door. The rain outside that did not care. He was the ghost in the mansion, the adopted mistake of the 3 most powerful women in Riverdale. 2 hours earlier, in a sterile white room smelling of antiseptic, a doctor held a clipboard across the desk, and his entire timeline collapsed into a single number. 12 months. Maybe 8. He did not cry. He stared at the grain of the ceiling and thought about a melody he had never finished writing. His phone buzzed. The eldest sister, cold as cut diamonds, never asked about the appointment. The message was a location and a time. Family meeting. Attendance mandatory. He walked into the study at dusk, where the 3 of them were arranged like a tribunal, waiting only for a signature on a single document. The document on the desk was a termination of guardianship, revocation of family name. A severance package clipped to the back, $50,000, the price of 18 years. The eldest sister's voice fell like a gavel. He was no longer family. He never had been. It was time for him to leave. He signed without knowing why. Maybe because he had been trained to obey since age 5, when they picked him from a group home because a psychic told their late father that a boy with green eyes would balance the family fortune. A good luck charm. Used up. Discarded. He pocketed the check and walked out into the rain. The gate closed behind him. The security code changed before he reached the curb. He was 20 years old, terminally ill, and the only people he had ever called family had just scrubbed him from their lives like a typo. He stood under a streetlight and laughed. It sounded like a piano string snapping. His phone buzzed again with an unknown number. He answered because he had nothing left to protect. The voice on the other end was old and warm, fractured by static and emotion. She was his mother, his real mother. She had been searching for him for 15 years. The world tilted sideways and the rain did not stop. Helena Vale lived in a small apartment above a piano repair shop on the west side of Riverdale. The stairs creaked under his borrowed shoes. When she opened the door, he saw his own face reflected in older, softer skin and the same shade of green in her eyes. She did not hug him. She waited until he nodded. They sat across each other at a kitchen table covered in yellowed newspaper clippings, all of them about him. School awards, a piano competition when he was 10, a photograph of him standing behind his sister at her first album launch, his face half cropped out by the frame. She had never stopped watching from a distance. She said they had told her he was a prodigy. They said he gave it up to help his sister's career. He did not answer. He crossed the room, sat at the worn bench of the upright Steinway, and laid his trembling hands on the chipped ivory keys. The tremor quieted as it always did before he played. He played the opening chords of Phoenix Waltz, the song that had made his sister a global superstar, the song the world believed she had written. When the last note faded, his mother was crying. She knew the piece. She had taught it to him at age 3. He had named it after the bird in a storybook. He confessed everything. He was Mr. Vale, the ghostwriter behind 14 platinum singles, 2 Grammy-winning albums, and a film score that had made critics weep. None of his adoptive family knew. He had 12 months left, maybe less. He was not going to spend them being invisible. His mother sat beside him on the bench, hand over his. The video dropped at midnight. No production crew, no label backing, no studio polish. Just an old Steinway, a dim lamp, and a boy with green eyes and shaking hands. He did not speak. He did not introduce himself. He simply played a composition called 12 Months. The final note hung in silence for 3 full seconds before the screen went black. By morning, the video had 500,000 views. By noon, it dominated every entertainment feed. By evening, his sister's manager shattered a coffee mug because he recognized the phrasing in bar 42. That was Mr. Vale's signature, the chromatic descent, the parallel thirds, the deliberate hesitation before the resolution. No one else wrote like that. His sister watched the video 17 times in her penthouse suite, draped in silk, diamond earrings still cold against her neck. She knew those hands. She knew the way the left thumb tucked under the palm during a stretch, a habit she had teased him about as children. The brother she had not defended, the one she had not even looked at. The eldest sister stared at her reflection in the dark window of her corner office, 40 stories above the city. Her mind, a machine built to calculate liabilities and leverage, recognized her error. The boy she had discarded had generated $17 million in publishing revenue. She had made a mistake, and she did not tolerate mistakes. She placed a call to the family lawyer. Find out everything about the Mr. Vale contract, she ordered. Who signed it? What rights were transferred? And find Ethan. She did not care what it cost, but Ethan was not hiding. He was sitting in a cafe across from the conservatory, sipping lemon tea with his mother, watching students haul instrument cases through the iron gate. He had been admitted to the conservatory at 14, the youngest pianist ever. A week before semester started, the eldest sister sat him down and explained that his sister's debut album was in trouble. He gave up the scholarship. He gave up the only future that had ever felt like his own, because he believed that if he loved her enough, she would eventually love him back. The conservatory director called the next morning. He had seen the video. He offered an honorary fellowship, no audition, no application required. Ethan declined. He was applying instead to the festival, the most prestigious stage in the country. The Riverdale International Music Festival was 3 months away. His neurologist had given him 6 to 9 months. The blade of a deadline was perfect. The first tremor that broke a note happened on a Tuesday. He was working on his new composition, Veil, after his true name. The right hand missed the E-flat by half a centimeter. He stopped, stared at his hand. The fingers trembled in a fine vibration that would not settle. For a pianist, the hands were not instruments. They were the self. The world caught fire. A music journalist published a deep dive tracing songwriting credits and publishing splits back 7 years. The conclusion crashed through the industry like a cymbal hit. Every original song his sister had ever released was ghostwritten by one person. Almost certainly her adopted brother, recently disowned by the family. The internet erupted. His sister called him 18 times. He did not answer. She left voicemails that started with fury and dissolved into something wet and incomprehensible. She had not known. She swore she had not known. But she also knew the truth. She had never asked. She had been too busy being a star, too busy resenting the awkward, quiet boy who skulked in the corners of her glamorous life. The youngest sister, the family's fragile heart, was 22. She had been 14 when he kissed her in the garden behind the estate, under the magnolia tree that bloomed only during the last week of May. She had kissed him back. She had told him she loved him. The next day, she was on a plane to Switzerland with no goodbye. She never stopped looking. She drew him from memory in 100 sketchbooks, each portrait a little blurrier than the last. When the story broke, she was in a Prague studio working on a graphic novel about a boy who turns into music after he dies. She saw the video. She saw his hands. She booked a flight before she finished the first bar. She landed in Riverdale on a gray afternoon, suitcase in one hand and a decade-old sketchbook in the other. She did not call her family. She climbed the stairs above the piano repair shop. His mother opened the door. Claire held up the sketchbook to a page where a 16-year-old boy sat at a piano, eyes closed, fingers blurred with motion. He was in the kitchen, struggling to open a jar of honey with a hand that would not stop shaking. He heard her voice, and the jar slipped. The sound of glass on tile brought her around the corner. They looked at each other across 10 years and a terminal diagnosis and a love that had been buried alive. She walked forward, every step a question, and stopped an arm's length away. She told him he should have let her say goodbye. He told her he had nothing to offer her. He had been the adopted boy. She was a cross. Her mother had made it clear what would happen if he ever touched her again. She told him her mother had been wrong about everything. She reached out and touched his face, fingertips, tracing the hollows under his cheekbones that had not been there before. She did not care how much time he had left. She was staying. He stood there, forehead against her collarbone, breathing in charcoal and mint, allowing himself to be weak. 3 weeks before the festival, a man entered the narrative. The biological son the late patriarch had never known he had, raised in Switzerland and brought into the company as a strategic consultant. Tall, articulate, bleach blonde and blue-eyed, he moved through the family ecosystem like a virus that had memorized the host's biology. He had drafted the termination document himself. He had hired a forensic accountant to comb through finances, a musicologist to find evidence of plagiarism, a social media firm to seed rumors. The musicologist came back empty. The accountant did not. Royalties had once briefly overlapped with a charitable trust account. He spun it. He leaked a story. Mr. Vale had embezzled from family charity. The eldest sister discovered the leak had not come from her. It had come from him. She fired him on the spot, but the damage was done. In firing him, she found something else, a copy of the original Mr. Vale contract signed by her late father 8 years ago. It included a clause that would annihilate her entire empire. The contract stipulated that Mr. Vale retained full creative rights to all his compositions in perpetuity. If the family ever severed legal ties with his representative, every song must be removed from all platforms within 30 days. The late patriarch had inserted the clause himself. She read the contract 3 times. Then she put on her coat and drove to the west side herself. The confrontation happened in the piano repair shop, surrounded by disembodied keyboards. She entered like a CEO walking into a hostile takeover. Her posture fractured the moment she saw him. He was thinner than she remembered, paler. A tremor ran visibly through the fingers resting on his thigh. He did not stand when she entered. She told him he had to release the catalog. Whatever had happened between them, his sister's career could not be collateral damage. She was his sister. He tilted his head slowly. She was not his sister. The eldest had made sure of that. She was a stranger who had profited from his work for 7 years while he lived on pity. She offered to fix the embezzlement story, hold a press conference, reinstate him as a cross, give him access to the best medical care in the world. He laughed once, a single huff that made him cough, and the cough sounded wet. He was dying. Money could not stop a glioblastoma that had already invaded his brain stem. He stood. The effort cost him visibly, a tightening around the eyes, a catch in his breath. He offered his counter. He would release the catalog, but the family would publicly admit Ethan Vale had composed every track. His sister would record a video. The eldest would resign from the charitable trust board. That was the only deal. She turned and walked out without answering. 24 hours later, his sister posted a video, 10 minutes. A single static shot of her sitting on the floor of her music room. No makeup, no filter, the platinum hair pulled into a messy knot. She read a statement. She said his real name 3 times. She said sorry. The catalog stayed online. The trust investigation shifted focus to the man who had actually manipulated the accounts, whose digital fingerprints were all over the fraudulent transfers. An arrest warrant was issued. He disappeared from the city on a private jet, but the legal net was closing. 3 weeks until the festival. Ethan had stopped reading the news. He practiced hour after hour with a fierceness that made his mother fearful and proud in equal measure. The good days were rarer now. Tremors came in longer waves. His left hand lost coordination for an entire afternoon, but the music itself was sharper than it had ever been, distilled by proximity to death. He was composing his own requiem. The Riverdale International Music Festival opened on a Friday evening in late October under a sky the color of bruised plums. The concert hall was a glass and marble cathedral. 2,000 people filled the seats. In the front row, his lover and his mother sat clutching hands. In a private box above the stage, his former family stood unseen. He stood in the wings, dressed in a simple black suit. The stage manager gave him a 5-minute call. He was not really there. He was inside the music, already walking through the architecture of the 70-minute suite he was about to play. The piece was called Terminal at 20. It began with a single note held for 6 seconds. The first movement was a storm of descending motifs and sharp hammered chords. The second was tender enough to make a violist openly weep. The third was a duet on a single piano, his left hand and right hand dancing around each other, touching, separating, returning. In the front row, Claire pressed both hands over her mouth. In the private box, his eldest sister felt something she had not felt since 15, when her father told her sentiment was a liability. Grief for a future that would never exist. She had hired the best doctors. They all said the same thing. The tumor was inoperable. The clock was fixed. She could not buy more time. His former sister watched the fourth movement and realized with a jolt of nausea that this was the original version of Phoenix Waltz. The version he had sent her at 3 a.m. with a voice note. The version she had cut. She heard what he had intended, and it was so much truer that she had to grab the railing. The fifth movement was the crisis. His body began to betray him in real time. A tremor hit his right hand during a rapid arpeggio, and a wrong note rang out, harsh against the chord. He did not stop. He incorporated the dissonance, repeated it, built a bridge around it. The mistake sounded inevitable, woven into the piece like a scar. By the sixth and final movement, the air in the hall was thick enough to choke on. The tempo was slow now, deliberate, each chord spaced with seconds of resonant silence. He was playing not with muscles, but with something older, something that lived in the space between intention and execution. The piece ended with a whisper. A single suspended note faded into the architecture of the hall over 18 seconds. He lifted his hands. The silence that followed was the loudest sound the festival had ever produced. Then the hall erupted. A standing ovation rolled like thunder. He bowed once and walked off stage. He did not return for an encore. He could not. An ambulance was already waiting. His lover was on her phone, demanding a neurologist meet them at the hospital. In the private box, the eldest sister sent a single line into the family group chat. Effective immediately, the man behind everything was banned from all family properties. All legal resources would be directed toward his prosecution. No dissent. He woke in a hospital room with a view of the river. The lights were dim. His mother was asleep in a chair. His lover curled on the couch with her sketchbook open on her chest, a half-finished drawing of his hands on piano keys. He did not remember the ambulance. He remembered only the silence after the final note. The doctor entered with the news they had all expected. The tumor had advanced. The timeline was now weeks, not months. There was a hospice option, a room with a piano if he wanted it. He nodded. He asked for the window to be opened. He could smell the river, clean and cold, carrying the last leaves of autumn downstream. His former sisters asked to visit. He thought about it for a full afternoon, measured in drips of an IV, and finally said yes. They came together, dressed in civilian clothes. They looked smaller than they ever had. The eldest spoke first. She had established a fund in his name, the Vale Fellowship. 5 full scholarships every year, in perpetuity. The other handed him a plain manila envelope. She had re-recorded the ending of Phoenix Waltz, his ending. She had released it that morning with a note crediting only him. The note also said she was retiring from recording. She did not want it to sing words someone else had written anymore. He took the envelope without opening it. He looked at his 2 former sisters and felt something that surprised him. It was not anger or forgiveness. It was a quiet, distant compassion, like the kind extended to a stranger on a train who tells a sad story you will never hear the ending of. He thanked them. The fellowship was a better last page than he had expected. The eldest's composure cracked. She nodded once, sharp, and left before the fracture could widen. The other lingered. She touched his foot through the blanket, a gesture so small and sisterly that it made his lover look up in surprise from the sketchbook. Then she followed her sister out. The room settled. The river flowed. The last morning was colder than forecast. Frost feathered the window. His mother had gone home to shower. His lover had stepped out to buy a cappuccino she would not drink. The room was still. He was half propped on pillows, breathing shallow. The machines had been switched to silent mode. In the quiet, he dreamed. He was 5 years old, sitting at a miniature piano in a sunlit room. A woman with green eyes was teaching him a scale. He could not reach the pedals because his legs did not even dangle off the bench. They stuck straight out. The woman laughed. The sound was exactly the same as the laugh he had finally come home to. The memory fractured into 1,000 images that did not belong to this lifetime. A different city. A different clinic. A doctor saying he would not survive. A door that opened instead of closing. Hands that caught him instead of pushing him away. A stage with a different kind of silence. A life where he was not the ghost. The images did not form a coherent story. They formed a possibility, a whisper from somewhere outside time. Not a promise, a hint. In the hospital bed, his lips curved into the faintest smile. His eyes did not open. The machine tracking his heartbeat began a long, slow deceleration, a decrescendo the nurses had learned to recognize. It was not dramatic. It was not tragic in the way people expected. It was just the end of a piece. The final note faded. Across the city, his eldest sister sat in a board meeting when her phone buzzed. She read the text. She did not move for 4 minutes. Then she stood, walked to the roof, and screamed once into the wind. The other was in a recording studio listening to playback of a scratch track she had no intention of releasing. She had been writing her own songs for 2 weeks, clumsy, honest songs that sounded nothing like her hits. When the call came, she set down the headphones gently, walked into the vocal booth, and sat on the floor for 3 hours. His lover was already at the hospital. She was holding his left hand, the one that had missed the E-flat during the last rehearsal and then refused to make another mistake. She felt the pulse stop and did not let go. She stayed sketching in her mind a final portrait, not of a dying boy but of a door half open at the far end of light. His mother arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing her slippers. She knelt beside the bed and placed her hand over Claire's. She hummed a fragment of a Chopin nocturne, the one she had played on a cassette tape and left in a bassinet 20 years ago, hoping the music would find her son before she could. The room filled with 2 harmonizing melody. The funeral was small, 6 people. The obituary ran in every major paper, but the family honored his final request. No cameras, no speeches, no platinum hits over the speakers, just a recording of Vale, the final movement he had played, captured from the festival live stream. It was imperfect. The dissonant notes still rang. It was the most honest thing they had ever heard. After the service, his lover found a letter in his belongings, addressed to her. It was short. He told her she had once asked him why he loved the magnolia tree. It bloomed only 1 week a year. It gave everything it had in that week, and then it rested. He told her to be his magnolia, to bloom. He would be listening. She read the letter 3 times and folded it into her sketchbook beside the drawing of his hands. She booked a ticket back to her studio. She had a graphic novel to finish, The Boy Who Turned Into Music After He Died. The ending was already written, but she thought she might change it. Months passed. Seasons turned. The fellowship received 12,000 applications. His sister released an EP of original material under the name Ember Vale. The critic, who had broken the original story, called it the debut she should have made a decade ago. The man who had engineered everything was arrested in Geneva, extradited, sentenced to 18 years. The family name slowly began to mean something better than it used to. His mother continued to teach. Her students, young pianists with trembling fingers and too bright eyes, often asked about the photograph on her wall. A boy at a Steinway, mid-note, his face half lit by stage lights. She told them a different story every time. None of the stories were lies. All of them were true. And somewhere in a space between waking and dreaming that no neurologist could chart, he was 5 years old again, sitting at a miniature piano playing C major with perfect form. But this time when he finished the scale, a different door opened. Beyond it was not a hospital room or a verdict or a severance document. There was only a light that tasted like magnolias, a voice that felt like his mother's, a melody he had not yet written, a melody he would write, in another time, in another life, in the first measure of something that did not have to end. The final note of one piece was simply the breath drawn before the next.
If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like these. The goal of this channel is to reach 1,000 subscribers, so go ahead and subscribe to help us hit that milestone. And don't forget to share your opinion about the story.